Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is June 5th, 2024, and we are going to be doing quick takes middle of the week by popular demand and bookend the Monday and Friday weekly videos with longer form videos covering more coins and possibly even some requests. Now, we are just going to be focusing on Bitcoin again today. We can see that Bitcoin did nearly hit our target to the upside here, which is the overhead resistance at around $72,000, just shy of it right there at 71,980. Now, our current wick high of this move after putting in this consolidation low structure here is coming in at around 71,800. So, as long as Bitcoin is remaining above the upper second standard deviation throughout the day, especially like on a 12-hour close, it can wick down below, but you want to see 12-hour closes coming in above around 70,000 to 70,200. And of course, as long as Bitcoin is remaining above the upper first on the daily closes there, then I would be favoring this high getting tested and higher. So if Bitcoin can close above the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here, which is coming in at around 71,650, then I would look for a little bit more aggression coming into these local resistances here at that $72,000. Above there, I would look for moves to $73,000 by this rejection over here. It's technically 72,800 to 73. And then above there, of course, the all-time high coming in at around 73,835 to 74K, depending on your exchange as well. Now, if Bitcoin can trade above there, I am looking around 75 to 78. And we can pull a fib, and above there, between above 78, I'd be looking 78 to 80. And we can see that on any kind of a breakout of this local range from a fib pull here at this swing high at 73,835 to the swing low here at 56,500, we can see that the 1272 is lining up right there at around $80,000. Now, anywhere above there, I'm looking mid to low 80s around this 414 or 1414 even at 83,500 or so to around $85,000. I would give it some room if it does more aggressively move up towards that area. But in this case, Bitcoin's got to break out first to even start looking in any of those areas. I'm going to show you the confluence there again for that particular fib at that 1272 in just a moment. But as long as Bitcoin's trading above about $70,000, looking good to maintain its expansive posture. Can it test down into $69,000 and this basis band here on the daily? Absolutely. I don't see any problem with that. As long as it's closing somewhere above the basis and upper first, I'm more than likely going to be looking for these upside targets to get ran. And in this case, we can see that we have confirmed expansion on the daily. We now have the BBWP up over the moving average here. Now, BBWP is a volatility metric for the Bollinger Bands. It's called Bollinger Band Width Percentile. It is by the caretaker, and it is built into my set of indicators here, my indicator, I should say, that is free. You can find it in the link in the video description down below on YouTube. You can also find it linked in my profile there on X. All you got to do is just add it to your favorites, and it'll show up in your favorites section. Just follow that link. But there is a BBWP metric built into my indicator here with the blessings of caretaker there. He did allow me to use his code for this. Now, if you want the on-chart version, that would be this. You can just search it in the indicators tab up here, just BBWP, and you can add it as well. Now, in this case, what we want to see is beginning to happen, and that is BBWP up over the moving average, and the moving average has a positive slope, and this is coming from a very low level, so very low volatility. And we see this reflected in the bands here. Now, we have seen lower volatility within this overall range, but we have not seen the nice compression in the bands that we are seeing right now. So if Bitcoin can get above that upper second standard deviation at around $72,000 and start taking out the overhead resistance at 72 to 73, and then take out that all-time high, then I'm looking 75 to 78, 78 to 80, and then mid to low 80s and beyond. Now, if Bitcoin does lose 69K, I would look for it to run this consolidation low side structure somewhere around the lower first and lower second, which is coming in at around, that's going to be 67,400 to 500 by the lower first. That is by the close opens down here on this higher low structure. And in this case, I would give it room still to that lower second standard deviation by this swing low here at 65,850. Anywhere below there, I'm looking to $65,000 and then possibly this lower high close open at $64,000, and then we come back to it. Now, that's not the first thing that I'm looking for in a move like this, but things can very quickly change around. Bitcoin isn't showing much aggressiveness in those lower term timeframes outside of washouts to the upside and downside. So let's drop to the 12-hour real quick here and take a look. All right, so I had mentioned this yesterday. We have a beautiful compression on the 12-hour Bollinger Band set here. We have confirmed expansion. Bitcoin is hanging out above the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands here. And we can see that in order to maintain this expansive posture, we do want to see 12-hour closures coming in above the upper first, and that's around $70,000. So this pretty much mirrors the daily. You want to see closures above around $70,000. Anywhere below there, it can save itself in the strong half of the bands around $69,000 by the basis band, and that's right where the daily basis band is coming in as well. So we do see a lot of confluence coming in that area. Anywhere below there, of course, we're running that 65,800 to $66,000 range roughly. So just be aware of that. Could it pause in and around the mid 67s? Sure, but we're going to see a lot of pressure down at that point, switching around. So Bitcoin's kind of got a shit or get off the pot here. Now, the 2-day is going to be closing with today's daily. And I did want to mention, and I did mention this in yesterday's video, and I want to mention it again. I do not think that Bitcoin is ready to just green candle its way to the heavens. Right now, the 2-day is indicating that it's probably going to take some time. Now, that could be by end of this week and the next week, somewhere around mid-June. If it continues to grind its way sideways and up, though, we need to see it staying above the 2-day upper first by end of day today, as this 2-day will be closing with today's daily candle. That's coming in at that 69,400 area or so. Again, $70,000 would be the strong area to close in. And that's, that would keep it right around this close open high structure right here as well. So we did see a closure in the last 2-day candle above there, and Bitcoin is maintained trading above that close open. So really just, it's very little resistance overhead. Seeing a lot of washouts every time things get pushed up. Seeing washouts to the bottom side, and then, a lot of shorts getting washed out in reprisals right thereafter. So in this case, closes above that $70,000 are also going to be where you want to see it for the momentum setup here. And this is a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. So this is measuring close over close price momentum, not the velocity of RSI. And in this case, the pivot is at $70,000. So we do want to see a closure in today's candle come in above $70,000. That would look really good for the bulls. We have this momentum indicator on the daily sitting at $68,000. So that is good as well. So we don't want to see $70,000 lost for the 2-day to preserve that momentum shift in terms of the pivot. And we do want to see $68,000, of course, closed above for the daily. I will say that if we go back and check on that 12-hour, we can see that right around $70,000 is pretty much in validation for the 12-hour as well. But as long as it's closing above around $69,725 to $70,000, looking good. And 12-hour is in liftoff for BBWP. Moving average is chasing, so this is a move in progress. It's just taking its time, just getting started on the daily, as I had mentioned. Moving average, the BBWP metric is over the moving average. And I'm going to quickly explain this. The big setups that you want to see are in low volatility periods. Typically, if you have really expanded bands or it's set up in a range like this, and you see a low volatility period that starts to pick up into high volatility, it's usually going to bounce between the upper second and third zones and lower second and third zones. And we saw that, and we even got a little expansion to the downside here on the daily, and then right back up to kind of return to the mean there at the highs of the range. But in this case, this is the first real compression we've seen since Bitcoin has pretty much broken above around that $60,000 level, between roughly $59,000 to $61,000. This is the most compressed that we've seen price. Excuse me. So what we're looking for is for Bitcoin to break out above the upper second standard deviation to really kick off that expansion, especially with so little overhead resistance right here. So And we are starting to see the etchings of that. So the setup is there. We see, though, that the 2-day is in more of a mean reversion phase, and that is because the deviation was this expansion, which occurred to the downside. And we can see that the initial expansion, sorry, it was one expansive phase prior to that, was this little compression to expansion into support. And then because the bands were expanded here, we saw volatility expansion, but within the context of the bands running that lower second and third to upper second and third. And we haven't seen a good compression. Where you do see the compression is skipping the 3-day coming into the 4-day. We see this beautiful compression here on the 4-day where we got big expansion up, mean reversion, bounces off the lower first and second zone, which after a big move up like that, you want to see things hanging around that lower first to lower second zone, and then bounced into a more of a sideways look here on the Bollinger Bands. But this has already started to kick off expansion on the closures above the upper first, and we just need to see the closure above the upper second there at around 72,670, and then of course take out the all-time high there at 73,835 to really get that expansion to the upside. Now 5-day looks just like what the 4-day was looking like. Beautiful expansion up, and now it's only beginning to get that compressive range look. Any closures above, again, around that 72,600 area is going to target the highs there at around that 73,835 and higher to around 75 to 78, I would say. You usually see, when you see compression like this, you usually see candles closing outside of that upper third. And we can reference where I just pulled that fib earlier, where that $80,000 level would be. By Sunday, if you watch no other video this week from me, if you do see any closures above around $71,000 by Sunday, that would put Bitcoin above the upper first standard deviation on the weekly. And that would give us the volatility targets as long as dailies are closing above the weekly upper first here at 71. That would give us the volatility targets of the highs, where it's already tested around this weekly high here at that 71,800 to the highs just above at 72,800 to 73, and then 73,835. But you see the upper second is coming in right at $80,000. So I'm going to leave you with that. I will follow up with another shorter form quick take TA video tomorrow. And of course, there is also my TA Q&A voice chat scheduled for 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the Pepe Ordinals Maxi server. So if you do want to hang out there, I will have a post here on the X timeline. Or if you're already in that server, come join me there. If you have any questions, just come and hang out. You can ask me questions about TA. We can look at certain charts if you want to know what I think of a chart or where things might be headed. You're more than welcome to hop in and ask and hang out. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. And with all of that, Landy out.